I understood how much better it is to just be your own boss.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, partnerships aren't bad, and there's lots of great partnerships in the world, but Hi, my name's John Buntin Jr., and we're watching the Jam interview.
What's your story?
I guess in my youth, before we had the internet, I was like many people that had a hobby. And of course, I did coins and stamps, and I did comic books, and that was one of the few that I really enjoyed doing and stayed with into my adulthood. I didn't exactly start out wanting to have a hobby store like I do now. I went to college down in Columbus, got a degree in electronics, worked at the airport, stocking shelves at the gift shops, and eventually went out west to explore for oil for a geophysical company. At one point I got laid off. I got a job in a comic book store. My experience with helping stock things and set things up helped me to get that store up and running very well. And a person from Akron, Ohio, who had visited there said, "John, come on down to Akron. I want you to start a store for me." And I says, "Okay, I'm not doing anything at the moment." So I came down to Akron. So we set up the store here down in Kenmore. It was very quickly that I realized that I liked doing this and I was good at it. And my partner did not like doing this and was bad at it. So I bought him out within like 5 months.
Wow.
And this May will be my 32nd year that I've been here in Kenmore.
That's awesome. So you've just naturally had a knack for running a comic store.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Well, a knack for, the inventory control, the displaying. I mean, all the important things you need to do to present your store to the public. You got to have it set up in an organized way and looking nice. And I mean, it's easy just to throw product on a shelf, but you got to do more than just that. And I did that very well. I'm still here, and quite a few of my competitors back from the 90s when the comics industry was at its peak, they're gone.
Obviously, there's intentionality behind that. I guess what kind of techniques or tips that you can maybe give to other comic book store owners, that can help them, better organize their displays?
Well, it's surprisingly how many people fail to remember the basics.
Yeah.
You have to have well-lighted store.
Yeah.
You have to have it neat and organized. You have to remember to vacuum the floor.
Yeah.
Every week I used to visit a lot of comic stores to get ideas, and it's surprising how many of them had dirty floors. I mean, it's something as minor as that still sits in the back of the mind of a person that comes in and wants to shop at your place. I mean, they're coming in for an experience as well as a product. Yeah. And if you're not given an experience that is enjoyable, even subconsciously, then chances are they won't come back. And I have really tried to make sure that everything is organized, nice and neat, and of course, I've had the luck of hiring great employees that just have a knack with talking with the customers and, finding out what they need, or just talking about the industry or the movies or things like that.
Being in the comic industry, I guess, what other facets are there?
Well, you can have certainly the collectors that like to collect things. I mean, again, that's what I started out as. I was a collector as well as a reader. The readers are the biggest part of this industry. But you have certainly lots of subgenres that you could collect or get into. I mean, you can go for the original art. There are people that like to go and meet the artists and the writers at the shows and buy original pieces of their artwork that they want to collect that way. You can certainly just collect by character, or you can collect by publisher. There's many different ways that you can enjoy the books.
You started collecting comics at the age of 14, right?
Yeah.
Who did you learn, or how did you learn the aspects of collecting comics? Where did you pick that up from?
Well, I didn't originally start collecting. I mean, I had sisters that used to buy Archie comics and Richie Riches and all that. I read them, but I wasn't really considered a collector at that point. It was just one day I was at a grocery store or a party store, and my mom wanted to know if I wanted a comic book, and I saw this cover of Avengers 94, the superhero team that's being so successful now with their movies. Yeah. Well, it grabbed me, so I bought it and I read it, and it was a very well-written story. And I said, this is great. I need to find out what happens in the next issue. So that's when I guess I actually became a collector/reader than just reading things in general, because I sought out the next story to go with this book. And once you start getting into that, then you get introduced to other characters in that Marvel universe, as it was. There was the appearance of these 4 interesting people that were called the Fantastic Four. It's like, hey, they've got a comic book too, so I grabbed that.
Yeah.
And then I started buying more and more. I had Paper Out and did the usual mowing lawns and all that, so I could afford to buy
Right.
things for my hobby.
Are there people that have, I guess, done it the opposite way? They've become collectors first.
You got to want to read first and then work your way into the product. I guess a good example of that is like the X-Files movie, or even Walking Dead right now. I mean, people that saw these TV shows and heard somehow or other that they were doing comic book versions of them, they came into my store and they would say, hey, have you got that X-Files, that TV show? That's great. I heard there's a comic book. Or Walking Dead, of course, is the huge popular title that has really brought people in that didn't start out actively looking for comic books, but they heard it was based on a comic book, so hey, let's see what that comic book was like. So those people came in from that other direction.
Without considering, I guess, hindsight, were you reluctant to contributing your own collection of comics during the beginning years of your business?
Oh, I don't think I was reluctant at all.
Okay.
I think within my first year, I said to myself, gee, I've got an apartment full of comic books. Originally, I was in another apartment above my business. And I says, now I'm getting a store full of them. Do I really need to duplicate that effort? Or should I just put my collection in the store, give it that big boost it needs so that I'll have all these additional sales and be able to reinvest that money into another category, which was games is what I invested in. I made sure I had lots of card games and board games and role-playing games. But putting my collection in the store got me that boost of money where I could expand my business very rapidly, and I think it was the best idea I ever had. And again, if I wanted to close up tomorrow, I have an instant collection behind me, unless I want to liquidate it out, but I can pick through whatever I want and get most of it back again that I originally had when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I still sort of have it, I'm just selling it as I'm going.
Yeah. At the beginning, you bought out your partner's business, and then would you ever, I guess, combine your collection with anybody else?
Well, originally I came to Akron. I wasn't planning on staying. I just was going to be a silent partner and let this guy run the business. But of course, I liked Akron when I got here. I'd been traveling around out west for 5 years, and I was back at my parents' place for a year while I was helping this other store get going. So when I came down here, it wasn't with the intention to stay. But again, I loved Akron. I decided this is the place I want to spend the rest of my life. Now, once I got here, and again, I bought out my partner because he didn't really realized what he was getting into and realized he didn't want to do it, so I bought him out. Over the years, I have started stores with quite a few people to get them going. There's a store in town that I was original partner with, and now it's all his. And there's a gentleman up in Cleveland that I did the same thing for, and there was a friend of mine that went to Gary, Indiana, and we did that for him. I mean, I've had partnerships before, but I've usually made it easy for them to just buy me out. I mean, just the way I was able to buy my partner out. I understood how much better it is to just be your own boss.
Yeah.
I mean, partnerships aren't bad, and there's lots of great partnerships in the world, but for me, I just enjoyed running this store the best I could. I never really wanted to create a chain or anything. I just want to put all my efforts in the store and into my community.
Right.
I'm very active in that. But I've done business with other guys to get their stores going, but eventually, within a couple of years, we made it so they could buy me out, and then they could have that same feeling of ownership, and it's all theirs, and they can be proud of what they're accomplishing by themselves.
Since being established in 1987,
Yes.
what has kept you going thus far, and what changes are you looking to make for the future?
Well, what's kept me going is the enjoyment of doing this. I mean, again, I like presenting things to my customers. I like helping them out. I was telling you earlier how I was preparing an email blast for the day of what's coming out the next week. I mean, it's making it easier for my customers to enjoy their hobby. I mean, that's what's kept me going, because, you get people that come in and thank you. And after 32 years, I mean, now I get to see the kids of the kids that used to come into my store, and they're bringing their children in now and getting them started on whether it's buying comic books or buying a card game or a board game. They're enjoying that. What's going to keep me going? Well, I guess what's keeping me going is because I like it. I mean, this is I've done many jobs in my life. I've been many places, but I enjoy being here in Akron. I enjoy running this hobby store. I enjoy the community that I spend time in. I mean, it's just been great. And I guess other than, I've got a wonderful wife, and a great little cat, and we've got a house here. And I mean, I got all the things that, you want in life. I mean, what more is there? What more do I need to keep me going than, having a great family and a great community and great customers. I mean,
Yeah.
what more do I need?
Where can people find Kenmore Comics online, or how can they contact you?
Well, my website is kenmore-comics.com. I wasn't quick enough to beat that guy in Kenmore, New York to get the website without the dash. Certainly, I'm down here on Kenmore Boulevard at 16th Street in Kenmore. You can look for the Spider-Man crawling on the outside of my building is a surefire way of knowing that. That must be where that guy's at. We're at 1020 Kenmore Boulevard. Our number is 330-745-5530. We're open most afternoons during the week. I do take a couple days off. We don't work here Tuesdays or Sundays. I definitely love being in the store, but I like to have a few days off, so we do that.
All right. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for watching. Keep jamming.